Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Farmer Joe Homesteading. This week, we are freezing cold. So for the goats, when it was really cold, they were just living here in their shelter. She's got a itchy face today. She likes it when I rub her horn butts. So they have, you can see the big mess of hay. I was feeding and watering them in here because the wind was so chilly they refused to go outside, and I don't blame them. So because they refused to leave the shelter, they also dropped in production because they weren't getting adequate water. I was bringing them buckets of water, but they weren't really drinking it because the water was cold. And then obviously they weren't going out to the bale to eat. I mean, they had plenty of feed in there. They made a big mess, but they weren't going out to their usual spot where Miss Annie is. And you can see there's a lot of hay in there. So once the wind died down, then they were heading out to the bale and heading out to get water as normal. So they are all good to go. You all fluffy, Harry.
Look at your little fluff. Yeah, you're all fluffy.
So we only have Mama and little Annie right now because the twins went to see the Billy, and Mama just had a heat again over the weekend while it was freezing cold. So I'm gonna try and keep track of her heats, and we'll get her to the Billy in January. I'll see you later. You'll be fine. There's lots to eat. Yeah, there's lots to eat. You'll be fine. I've been a bit spoiled because I've been packing food and water to them into their shelter, so they're a little disappointed that the last 2 days I haven't been packing food and water to them, and so they're a bit miffed that they have to go out and get their own food. In last week's video, I was all chipper and excited to share with you that winter had started, and I was wearing my hoodie and it was great. It was like -5 and snowing, and then everything just went nuts. We hit -20, -25, and the wind was insane. I was able to scramble and get all the birds rearranged, so the geese are up here in the big coop. The cold doesn't affect them like it does the other birds. So for them to have this big space and a big coop that's not heated, that's fine, because if they were down in the little coop below, they don't go in for winter to sleep anyways. They prefer to sleep outside. So at least here they have protection from the buildings a little bit so that it's not quite as windy over here. And yeah, as you heard, turkeys have all been moved to the coop that I had my breeding pen in. That coop isn't necessarily as warm as I was hoping it was going to be, so I put the heat lamp in there. I have not put a heat lamp in a coop for a couple of years, but this wind and this weather is insane. I had a couple roosters already lose combs and have some damaged wattles, and I thought that it was fine because they're protected, they're in the coop, I haven't been letting them outside, but our humidity is very high right now, and so I already have boys that lost in that coop. There was too many roosters to keep in the main coop because I only have about 50 hens in here, and if I keep all of the boys in here is just too many, and it's very stressful for everybody. So some of the boys are staying with the turkeys in the turkey coop. And those boys are the ones that I've noticed a lot more frostbite damage. And so they now have a heat lamp, and it's supposed to warm up. So I'm hoping that it will be okay. And I mean, now that they've already got their frostbite and that's dealt with, then come January and February, when we typically have this weather, they should be okay, and they should be protected. So we'll see what happens. I had to do a lot more winterproofing in this coop because that wind was just insane. It blew through everything. We had frozen water for a day, and so it's been really, really rough on the birds. It was very sudden, very quick change. So we've been doing, you can see there's a couple girls here hanging out by the water. We've been doing lots of water with vitamins. When the wind was crazy, I was leaving all the coops locked up, and so the waters were in the coop, which is bad because it increases that moisture and adds risk to frostbite, but they need water. And so the water had to be in the coop for a while just because it was so crazy. So this coop seems to be pretty good. There is 53 birds in this coop, which has been okay. They've been staying pretty warm. It's very hard to do filming when it is ice cold because I can't take my gloves off, and I'm having to run around with my face totally masked up just to keep the wind off my face and whatnot, because I run the risk of getting frostbite just being out here with the birds. So I'm hoping to do some filming for you guys of like winter prep and what we do for our birds in the winter. And so I'm hoping to get that done eventually here. And then I can explain in a little bit more detail what we do for the birds in the winter time. The rabbits have been doing well. I mean, they are fluffy, warm, and cozy. I did winterize the coop for the boys a little bit more than it was before, just so that the wind wasn't blowing right through the boards, so they have that extra wind barrier, and that made a difference for them. The girls, theirs is pretty sturdy, pretty solid, and they never complained about the winter weather at all. So yeah, the boys, I mean, obviously they don't complain either. They've got lots of straw top and bottom for everybody. So yeah, the rabbits have been doing okay throughout the cold. Our little chicks have been doing all right as well. I was a bit concerned, obviously, when it was that cold. We did lose one little chick, but it was one that was a little bit smaller and a little bit weaker from the start. I wasn't sure if it was really going to make it, and then it did. So I'm hopeful that, and then it didn't. Sorry. So I'm hopeful that the rest of them will be totally fine. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that coop and making sure that it does stay pretty warm for them. So one of the reasons that it got so nasty cold was because we just had a full moon. So with the full moon cycles, that's typically when we get our worst weather up here. And so we do know that another full moon will come in December. So we just need to be prepared for those full moons. That's usually when we hit those really, really negative temperatures. This time, I think the lowest we hit was minus 21 or something. But the wind, it's the wind that is very scary, very dangerous. It just sucks the life right out of you. It doesn't matter how many layers you have on, it just chills you to the bone. So as long as we hit minus 30s without the wind, the birds seem to do better, the goats seem to do better, and everybody seems to be just a lot better in general. So yeah, we're hopeful that they are calling for warmer temps because it is going to snow, and it is already, I can see some snowflakes starting to fall again. So we're hopeful that the rest of the winter will not be quite as harsh as this first week of real winter. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. That's all for this time. So make sure you guys like and subscribe to our channel, and we will see you guys next week.